I think woke is a all-encompassing mindset. I mean, Elon Musk has called it the woke mindset virus, where you basically virtue signal over facts. You play the victim. You try and cancel anyone.
What's an example?
Anyone that doesn't agree with you.
What's an example?
Anything you like.
Oh, that's not an answer.
What?
You use the expression, I don't think you know what it means. Woke to me means awake.
Let me give you
woke.
So this is an interesting conversation, a debate between Piers Morgan, Anthony Weiner, and George Santos when he can actually get a word in because Anthony Weiner likes to talk. But they discuss what the meaning of woke is. They talk about who should be Kamala Harris's vice president, among some other interesting things that I think you'll enjoy. Now let's check it out.
It's the importance of seeing what's in front of your own eyes. To butcher a phrase, if Trump says it's raining and Kamala says the sun is out, I'd probably look out the window myself and make my own decisions. Well, my first two guests tonight know a thing or two about attempting to control the narrative and what can happen when it spirals out of control. And I bring them together at last for the debate you never knew you wanted, but I've always wanted to have. Former New York Democrat Congressman Anthony Weiner and the former New York Republican Congressman George Santos. Gentlemen, I feel that's a piece of history in the making in a rather historic month. Great to see you both on set here.
You're freaking out. You Trump shills are freaking out, aren't you? You don't know what the attack is going to be.
It's very, well, here's the interesting question, isn't it? I'm seeing all the excitement for Kamala Harris, but I believe it will be quite a short-lived honeymoon.
Could be.
And then reality will kick in. 4 months, I spoke to Trump on Saturday night, and I said, how are you feeling about it? He said, listen, if one thing I've learned in the last 3 weeks, 4 months is going to be a very, very long time in this political cycle. And he's right. First of all, this decision by Joe Biden tonight to address the nation, but almost certainly not to resign the presidency, but to say, I'm going to carry on being president until January. Is that really feasible? I mean, most of the world's looking at this going, hang on, you've quit the race because you're basically too infirm, cognitively clearly in decline. You've been bullied into it because you didn't want to go by all the grandees of the party and the donors. Is it really realistic or good for the country or good for Kamala Harris that he continues to be president?
Well, I'm glad you're speaking for most of the country here, Piers.
Well, I'm not. I'm asking you.
No, you said most of the country believes. Most of the country
No, most of the world, I said.
Most of the world. Well,
not necessarily America, but
thank
most
you for
of the world.
speaking for the world, Piers.
I like to think it's a global show.
Yeah, you totally are. And you're totally a spokesman for the globe, and I appreciate that about you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look, I mean,
there's my trailer.
It's too different. He's a lousy candidate and a great president. There's your answer.
Was he fit to be president?
Yeah, obviously. He's doing an amazing job.
So why is he not carrying on fighting the race?
Because he's not a good candidate.
Right, so how can he be a brilliant
two
president?
different things.
How can he be a brilliant president, but then all the people in his party think he's got no chance of winning?
I was a brilliant congressman doesn't necessarily mean I'd be a brilliant talk show host. Just cut it out. Look, the American people said both candidates are too old. One of them got out. Now one of them's too old. The parties exist to choose the strongest candidates. We have a stronger candidate than we had a couple of weeks ago. That's why you're losing your mind trying to figure out how to attack her.
I'm not losing my mind. Or trying to.
You do. You played 32 shots about how, oh my goodness, you were trying to make a different narrative. We're not trying to make a narrative.
No,
here.
I'm actually.
Piers, let me finish my thought. We're not making a narrative. We're making a president, and it's two choices, and it is Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and that's why your boy and your team is freaked out.
It's not my boy or my team.
Oh, come on.
Not.
You're a shill for your guy Trump. You've always been that way.
I'm not, and he would be the last to say I was. I've been critical of him more than anybody in the last year.
Let's get him on the blower.
Look, I'm going to say this.
George, your response to this. I mean, Joe Biden is apparently such a brilliant president that that's why he had to quit the race.
He's brilliantly in decline. He's brilliantly stupid. I mean, the president, unfortunately, is an utter disaster. This country's never been in worse condition than it's been in the last 3 years under Joe Biden. Joe Biden is unfit to run, so he is therefore unfit to continue to be president. Herr said it in his report. He was a frail old man with poor memory. That's not the description of the President of the United States that we should expect to have. And furthermore, when my guy is 82, then he'll be too old. And at that point, he'll be done with his second term in office. So if we're going to talk about age, if Joe Biden was allowed to stay until 82, my guy, Donald Trump, is going to be able to stay until he's 82.
Listen, the American people have repeatedly said one thing, and that is that they don't like either of these guys that were running because they think they're both too old. Right now, Donald Trump is older than it was when Ronald Reagan left with dementia. Left his. He's too old. And if you want to talk about the accomplishments of Joe Biden, you know, the only one president in American history has ever lost jobs, and it was Donald Trump.
He also had a global pandemic, Anthony.
Oh, so maybe we shouldn't count the 4th year of his office.
Oh, come on. Look.
So we say, okay, only let's take the first 3 years then.
Would a Democrat president have not lost the same number of jobs in that year?
Oh, are you kidding? Of course not. You forget you did show after show about what a disaster Donald Trump was.
I did.
Talking about having bleach, talking about all of the decisions that were made at that time. Managing a crisis is part of the job, and you can't say, oh, well, his first 3 years were great, and then he stunk up the joint.
How would the Democrats have stopped the job losses in that pandemic?
Well, one of the things we would do is had a consistent policy.
I really don't think that Anthony Weiner actually believes that. How could he? Look at how the Democrats ran their states. The Democrat governors ran their states. California, Michigan. They locked down. They forced everyone to mask. I'm not really trying to get into the whole COVID thing, but get real. Those states are still losing jobs today under the same leadership, and there's no way that they would have gained or not lost jobs during that year. I gotta think that Anthony Weiner is being paid by the DNC or Joe Biden or whomever, Soros, just like Harry Sisson is, right? And it's wild that Piers Morgan keeps having these type of people on, but it does make for good content. It makes for a good back and forth, even though George Santos isn't necessarily the guy that I would have picked to go up against Anthony Weiner in this. I know he lied to get elected, but that's kind of what politicians do. The worst part about the George Santos saga is that the Republicans in Congress just removed him so easily when they have such a thin margin. He's obviously a Trump supporter, and it would be good to have that extra vote when it comes to some of these things that they're trying to do in Congress. Folks like Anna Paulina Luna and Marjorie Taylor Greene could use that extra vote and support rather than just giving up that seat. And I think it was a Democrat that replaced him. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just going off the top of my head right now. But let's get back to the video.
Great, and then he stunk up the joint.
How would the Democrats have stopped the job losses in that pandemic?
Well, one of the things we would do is had a consistent policy.
Your policy was to lock everyone at home.
First of all, that happened under Donald Trump. Let's settle down, guys. You guys are doing the same thing that your cult leader does. You've got to realize, 2020, your guy was in charge. Are we clear on that?
Hold on. He was my guy, but Andrew Cuomo
Last time I checked, I'm not an American.
No. That was all as a result of the orders that came out of the Republican-controlled Department of Health at the time. Stop carrying on with this idea that we're supposed to be memory hole an entire quarter of the guy. The guy was fired. The guy was fired because he was lousy on COVID. Don't you remember that?
If he's so bad, Trump, my guy, as you put it, if he's so bad...
Just own it, Piers.
If he's so bad, I've always...
He's my guy.
Totally my guy. I love this. I love this. I'm a balanced guy. Piers, we know what you are.
Okay.
Just own it. It's fine.
Unlike you with Trump, I've always tried to be fair-minded. I criticize him when he deserves it, and I praise him when I think he deserves praise. It's the old-fashioned way of covering
That's the standard line for people who are in the bag for Trump.
Because I'm not a partisan politician figure. I'm not.
You're a partisan for Trump.
No, I'm not.
You clearly... Look, I say to your listeners, Google Piers Morgan.
Do it.
Piers Morgan and Donald Trump.
Do it.
And you'll
read
see.
every...
Hold up. Didn't Anthony Weiner start off by saying that Piers Morgan was just ripping on Trump during that whole era? I mean, you gotta make up your mind, bro. You can't just say the argument that fits your narrative at the time you're speaking. Consistency and having a principled position is what matters the most in these type of situations. And you can't say, oh, you were doing good when you hated on Donald Trump. Listen to what you said. And then now he's going to come out here and say that you're in Donald Trump's corner. I don't think that's a fair assessment. And I'm glad that Piers Morgan is defending himself. But let's get real. Piers Morgan might like Donald Trump, and that goes back to his personal history with him where he was on The Apprentice and things like that. But I don't believe that Piers Morgan would actually vote for Trump. Maybe he would now because of all the conversation that he's witnessed. But typically, I don't think that he would be a conservative or a Republican voter if he were able to vote in the United States. I believe he can't. He claims that he is a British citizen, so I don't believe that he actually will be able to vote this term. But I could be wrong.
And you'll
read
see.
every
but
column
anyway,
I've written about.
Let's get you. Hey, 2-on-1. I thought you guys would have 4 more people out here against me.
No, here's my question.
I'm actually impressed you're only having 2.
Here's my question for you. If Trump is so awful,
yes.
if he's so disastrous, if everybody hates him so much, if he's the worst president of all time, blah, 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 if he's the new Hitler, as all the left love to say.
And Vance likes to say.
How is it that he's currently leading the polls?
Because we're a partisan country. Are you new in town?
Anthony,
I recognize this is not a Staten Island accent, but you must know. At this table
But he's up against the best president you've ever seen.
Hey, Piers, if this table was running on the Republican line, he would have 44%.
Well, Anthony, that's not fair.
That's the fact of politics today.
That's not fair.
But why is somebody who lost to Joe Biden now much more popular than Joe Biden?
Much more popular?
Because
let's not get carried away.
Hold on. Much more popular, Anthony. Far more popular.
Trump's approval ratings this week have been his highest ever.
The bottom, yes.
And
he just came off a convention and Roshadi went up 3 points.
Kamala Harris has lower
He's never been more popular in
than
America
Donald Trump at his lowest.
That's right. He's never been more popular. He's one of the.
Do you agree?
He's one of the most unpopular figures in American political life,
You know
maybe in
who's more
American political
unpopular?
history.
Your guy.
100%. That's why he's not running anymore. Let's talk about Kamala Harris.
She's actually historically been even less popular.
Kamala Harris
Not today. If you want to quote polls, take a look today.
Kamala Harris at her
net
lowest.
up 14% in approval ratings. Listen,
George Santos can't get a word in. And what's with his face? I don't like to talk about people's appearance, but is he Botoxed or is he just like, I don't know. He's got like a perma smile thing going on.
Listen, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying
What
to.
am I trying to do?
I'm about to say.
That was a weirdly paranoid,
That was the beginning.
schizophrenic, weird kind of. They're
Listen,
all out to get us.
Let
No,
me
we're
finish.
not.
Let me finish my thought.
I'm trying to host a general debate about this.
Let me finish my thought. You're trying to take this dynamic that has emerged, where the Democrats now have put in a better candidate than they had. I'll stipulate to that. No one disagrees with that. And you're ignoring the fact that the single biggest unifying coalition in American history is people who don't want Donald Trump to return to power. And now it looks like we're going to get that way. Right? So let's have that conversation.
A serious question. Do you actually believe that Kamala Harris is the solution here? I know she's getting a great press, but again, the reason I played
solution. What do you mean solution?
Well, to winning. The reason I played the media, the mainstream media, talking about it, is that they've gone from having done all this with Biden all year and denied the obvious that we could see and hear with our own ears and eyes. What they've done with Biden in the last 3 weeks is turn a knife into him and suddenly say, actually, he's useless and has to go. And now they're bigging up someone they've also trashed.
I saw the 4-minute intro. I know your point, but I can tell you, but something like 60% of the American people have said repeatedly over and over again, both candidates are too old. This whole idea, the media told us he was a young. No one believed it.
Have you watched TV for the last year?
He's old, my dude.
Joe Scarborough said he was as sharp as a tack and impressive, and he had a hard time keeping up with him. But for months, the media lied. For months, the Democrat Party said Joe Biden was incredibly talented. No, Anthony, you can't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
It's the Democratic Party. It's not the Republican Party. It's not the Democrat Party. What, you don't even know the names of the parties.
The Democratic Party lied to the American people consistently.
I know enough if you're going to make a reference.
So Bryson DeChambeau has his brilliant YouTube channel.
Let's talk about Donald Trump's golf game.
Yeah.
What is with this obsession with Donald Trump's?
You just said he's too old to be president. If you watch an hour of him playing golf with the current U.S. Open champion, Bryson
How about
DeChambeau,
this? I got a better idea.
Let's
watch him at a rally.
Let's watch him at the second best round he did for this.
Let's watch him at a rally. Let's watch him at a rally. Call Nancy Pelosi, Nikki Haley from 4 times in a row. Let's talk about him. Talk about. I don't want to get electrocuted. I want to get it by sure.
But they're not that different.
Let's talk about him. Let's talk about him say that EVs can't fly when it's raining or whatever it is. The guy is demented, but that's cool. We're gonna have an election now, and we're gonna learn about it.
Look, man, misnaming somebody is not that uncommon, okay? I grew up with 3 brothers, and my mom was always calling us by the wrong name. It doesn't mean she has dementia. It doesn't mean anything like that. So misspeaking somebody's name, which I'm sure Anthony Weiner is actually exaggerating when he says that Donald Trump called Nikki Haley Nancy Pelosi 4 times, but even if he did, Donald Trump speaks for hours a day publicly in a microphone. Of course you're going to misspeak. And of course, the mainstream media, the paid shills like Anthony Weiner, are going to try to magnify that and say that he has some sort of dementia on the level that Joe Biden has. I mean, and that's just completely absurd. And anybody paying attention should know better. I mean, that is a blatant giveaway that these people are either paid or they're just complete idiots. And they're not actually paying attention to reality.
Now we're going to learn about it. One thing that every poll that you've reported said, both guys are seen as too old, and a lot of people hated both people. Well, now one of them is out, and now we just have one old demented dude.
Who should she choose as her VP? Who would be the
white guy?
Who would be the smart?
Let's get a quota hire in. Some white guy.
Who would be the smart play?
I don't know, probably a governor, Waltz or Shapiro, one of those guys. So we have to put a Senate race in play.
What do you think?
Oh, I think she should go for Buttigieg. It'd be the great woke squared ticket.
You gay guys stick together.
Oh, absolutely.
He's been good.
Absolutely.
He's been good.
What was interesting about her speech yesterday, which was quite impressive, I thought.
Piers really is impressed by Kamala Harris for some reason. Although he loves to play the montage videos of her talking about time and undoing what used to be undone or whatever, and all these stupid things that she says over and over again, he still somehow looks at her and says, oh, she's rather impressive. It's just, come on, bro. Are you serious? And also, I definitely would love to see Kamala Harris appoint a Democratic governor as her VP. Have him step down and give a Republican a chance to actually take over the governorship of that state. Any state, I would be fine with that. So, yes, please do that.
I thought, is that she didn't really go very woke. I mean, she really stuck to what are going to be the big attack.
What does woke mean?
Well,
what does that even mean?
It means well, I can tell you what it means in modern day, what it used to mean.
No, tell me what it means now. When you just used it, what do you mean?
I think woke is a all-encompassing mindset. I mean, Elon Musk has called it the woke mindset virus, where you basically virtue signal over facts. You play the victim. You try and cancel anyone.
What's an example?
Anyone that doesn't agree with you.
What's an example?
Anything you like.
Oh, that's not an answer.
What?
You use the expression. I don't think you know what it means. Woke to me means awake.
Let me
being
give you-
woke.
let me
Being
give you-
awake.
Come on,
Let
no.
me give you-
What do you know?
You guys- you
guys
wanna
are
beat-
awake. You guys are woke.
You want to
But-
beat up transgender people.
No,
you want
we don't want to beat
You
them
want to
up.
burn
No,
books.
no,
That's
Anthony,
what woke
no.
is.
We want pornographic books out of schools.
No,
we
hang
want
on.
men out of
Let me
girls'
give
By the way,
That's
DeSantis,
very
his
different
campaign
thing.
all about woke
Let
was
me give you-
rejected by the Republican Party
Anthony,
and the
let me
Democratic
give
Party.
you
So
want-
keep it up, guys.
Here's-
Keep woking it out.
here's-
And by the way, I saw you stumble over what woke is because people use it at this point as a cudgel.
I'm
and
about
what
to
it really
give you an
means-
example.
I know, but I'm talking first. You use it as a cudgel, and by the way, it's unpopular, so keep it up, my
No,
man.
I agree. This is why she didn't go there and why Trump has actually backed off it a bit. But if you want an example of what I'm talking about, which she supports, by the way, it is the absolutely disgraceful farce of allowing biological males to compete against women in women's sport, right?
Which is abhorrent. Can you agree to that, Anthony?
Can I tell you
Can you
something?
concede to
where
that?
you ignore facts
Can
because
you
you want
tell
a
me-
virtue signal about fairness
Tell me
to
a little
transgender
bit.
people.
Tell me a little bit about what the president has done about that, or what Kamala Harris has done about that, or what Congress has done about that. Why don't you guys focus on the fact that American people, and then you get up in the morning, they're trying to figure out how they're going to raise their kids, get them to a quality school, get them to mass transit that works, living in a world that's not boiling at the seams. Do you think they're really saying, boy, I hope that someone doesn't run against my daughter at camp?
All right,
let me make a point.
It is an
Here,
attempt to
let me
divide
make a
our
point
country,
here.
and we're not going to do it.
You don't have a daughter, do you?
I have a son.
Right.
All right, let me-
I have a daughter of 12, right?
He's a lovely young man.
I have
Jordan,
three
please
lovely-
excuse Jordan.
I-
If you're watching this show, Jordan, you're the only 12-year-old.
I have three
here.
lovely sons too, but my daughter is 12. If she was competing in sport, I don't want her being given a completely unfair track, right?
Complain to your school board. Complain to your school board. Don't complain at the president of the United States. Don't try to divide our country
Sorry.
over these issues.
No. See, here's the problem with that. These woke people incorporate whatever they want, and then they say, if you don't like it, take it up with the legislature, take it up with your school board, take it up with this or whatever. And then it becomes a divisive issue whenever the people that oppose that, whenever the people that oppose allowing, biological males into women's sports and things like that, they become some type of, homophobe or transphobe or whatever you want to call it, and it becomes a divisive issue. It's not the people that are resisting it that are being divisive, it's the people that are implementing it that force the people to punch back, that force the people to defend themselves. They're the ones that are being divisive. They know better. They know that for the sake of competition, biological males shouldn't be competing with women, but they're woke. They won't go against the woke side, and so they just approve of things, even if they know in their heart that it's wrong. Because if you go against it, then they'll kick you out, right? Nobody wants to be kicked out of their own cult, so it becomes painful for them. And you see people like Anthony Weiner and Harry Sisson and some of these others, they go out there and they just defend it blindly. They defend it wholeheartedly, and it's just insane to me. Because any true sports fan knows that we don't want to see unfair competition. It's not appealing. And allowing biological boys into girls' sports, biological men into women's sports, is not appealing. It's not a fair competition, and people just don't want to see it. The only people that do are the people that have never played a sport and people that have never supported an athlete. It costs a lot of money nowadays from parents to get these people into these sports to support their kids. And the last thing they want to see is their child be robbed of scholarship opportunities, championships, anything like that that they deserve because somebody else is essentially cheating. And that's the way that they see it, and that's the way that it really is in reality.
No.
If you want,
it
we
doesn't
can come
divide
up,
the country.
We can come up with issues that we think are wedge issues. We saw Ron DeSantis run an entire campaign on this. He got like 4% of the vote. It's not a thing that people care about. People care about what Democrats are talking about. Having an economy that's humming again. Not losing jobs, creating jobs. Not being in a situation where you have a vice presidential candidate on the Republican line who believes what most Americans do, which your friend Donald Trump is a sexual abuser.
All right.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to play another clip from Kamala's speech. This is where she talks about abortion rights. Take a look at this.
And we, who believe in reproductive freedom, will stop Donald Trump's extreme abortion bans because we trust women to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do.
How important do you think abortion rights are going to be, and how confusing is the Republican position on this?
Here's the deal. Abortion rights it should be a non-starter. We resolve that with the Dobbs decision. It's a state's right. I don't understand. The Republicans are falling into the Democrat trap of making this election about abortion and deflecting about the issues of the border, deflecting about public safety. When Anthony here
What's
says,
Trump's
hold
position
on,
on
let me finish. When Anthony says that Americans just want to get to work and do their job and support their families, how about allowing and creating an environment where Americans can get to work alive? Because in many cases right now, the crime is absolutely rampant. Just yesterday, an 18-year-old...
What's on abortion? Answer the man's question on abortion. What's your position?
I answered. My position on abortion is irrelevant.
What's Trump's?
Trump's position's been very clear. It's a state's issue. It's a state's issue.
Oh, so he's in favor of what it is in New York.
Well, it's a state's issue.
Right, so he's in favor of what it is in New York.
He supports the Constitution. The 10th Amendment supports that the states decide what's best for themselves. And that's a done deal. Stop trying to federalize abortion.
I just want to understand. And maybe you can explain, Piers, because you're close with Tom.
No, you don't want to understand.
No, I do.
You want to rope Republicans into your abortion talk. We don't have to talk abortion.
All right, Anthony, how important...
It is kind of an issue.
How important do you think it will be?
It's a non-issue.
I just want to understand it. The Republicans' position on abortion has always been that they're pro-life, right? But now they apparently are pro-choice because they say they want to let New York decide, and we decide.
Well,
okay, so what is the position of Donald Trump on the fundamental? I've never met a politician, and I know George is not one of these, who doesn't have a position on abortion.
Well, I know his
it's
position.
A fundamental right. Go ahead. What is it?
Well, he's made it clear through briefings to friendly media.
And the Supreme Court appointments that he's made.
He believes that he personally believes in something like a 15-week term limit, right? Which is not unreasonable.
It's not unreasonable.
However, his overarching belief is it should return to the states to make decisions.
Okay, but that's not the overarching. You either believe that a woman has this constitutional right to her own body, or you don't. And the Supreme Court has said there is no such right. One state can decide one thing, another state can decide. And what I'm asking is, what is the position of Donald Trump? Does he really believe in New York's position?
You know, this whole abortion fear-mongering tactic from the left, the Democrats, is complete bullcrap, right? Donald Trump has said multiple times in this campaign that he's going to leave that issue to the states. I don't know why people believe the opposite of that, but when Kamala Harris comes out here and says that Donald Trump is going to take your rights away, she's just straight up lying. She's fear-mongering to get votes, and people like Anthony Weiner fall in line. They ignore what their own eyes and ears have heard Donald Trump say. They ignore what Donald Trump's precedent is. I mean, when you think back to the Chaz Chop days and everybody on both sides wanted Donald Trump to send in the National Guard and stop it, he said, no, that's on the state to take care of. So, I mean, he has a precedent of 4 years of being president of leaving things to the states. He believes in the Constitution and the way things should be, right? And when this topic comes up, the Democrats conveniently forget how babies are made, right? There's plenty of prevention methods out there. They taught us about it in public school and grade school practically of how to not get pregnant, right? I mean, I don't have to tell you all the methods, but then there's that good old-fashioned wholesome way of just not having sex until you're married, you know? I mean, nobody talks about that, or just abstinence. I mean, how does this stuff just get completely lost on people? They hear a Democrat talking point and they're like, oh yeah, women's rights, ooh. It's pathetic. Last year, I went to a baseball game and there's this guy out there. I went to 4 games in a row because I had to travel for it. And there's this guy out front. He's handing out petitions saying, here, sign this petition to every woman that comes walking by him at the crosswalk to get from the parking lot into the stadium. And he's handing out these petitions saying, why can't I say petition? He's handing out these petitions saying, sign this to protect women's rights, women's health rights. And really, it was just trying to get women to sign up for, you know, allowing abortion. And it's just completely insane to me. And that's an example of how they can't just come out and say what they mean. They have to disguise it as women's health care, right? Okay, so what's more healthy? Getting pregnant and having an abortion, or just not getting pregnant in the first place? You tell me. All right, let's finish this video up.
Trump, does he really believe in New York's position, which is a very generous abortion law?
He believes it's not generous. It's beyond generous.
That is
right?
a trick.
No, he believes
really? In what way? In what way, George?
I mean, come on, Anthony Weiner. In the state of New York, there are no limits to abortion at this point. If you slice it and dice it the way it is,
you believe the federal government should be in that decision?
No, I don't believe the federal government should be in that decision.
So it should only be the woman and her doctor and her church and whatever else.
I'm going to make this very clear. In the state of New York, a woman at the 6th month of gestation is allowed to have an abortion. I was born at the 6th month of gestation. So to say that there's no life, it's just a fetus.
Who should decide?
I think
government?
I think that's a personal decision.
State legislature? You're saying the state, George?
Personal decision between
Donald Trump says it should be the legislature.
But let the legislature decide, which is voted by the people.
Right. Donald Trump believes the legislature should decide whether a woman has the right to choose.
Which is voted by the people.
I think that's pretty clear.
I'll tell you what.
Like I said, Anthony Weiner doesn't let Santos get a word in. But let's not forget, Donald Trump was always a Democrat until he ran on the Republican ticket in 2016, right? So I don't expect Donald Trump to be the most conservative, right-wing crazy person that the left wants you to believe him to be. So it's not hard to believe that Donald Trump isn't this hardcore anti-abortion activist. That's just the reality of things. And so if what Piers Morgan said there about 15 or 16 weeks or whatever is Donald Trump's position, that's what Donald Trump's position is. And to George Santos's point there, 6 months is way too late. He was born himself at 6 months, he said. So if that's true, I don't know about if we believe what George Santos says or not, but if that's true, that's a very valid reason to not allow it at that point. So what are your thoughts on this conversation? What do you think about the word woke? What's your definition of it? I'd like to know. I'm curious. This one went a little bit longer than usual, so if you stuck around to the end, I certainly appreciate it. And make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel on your way out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.